Welcome back to Ion Motive. This is episode number 22. My name's Ian Kendrick. I'm so pumped to have you here today. Let's just get right into it. Today I'm going to be talking about why you need to go into the storm. I'm using a metaphor there. We'll talk about that in greater detail as we get a little bit more into this episode. But I think this is an important subject that I have been wanting to talk about for a long time, but I felt like I really didn't have the words to say, and I feel like I finally do. In this episode, I'm going to talk about why it is so important that you try to conquer your fear, that you try to handle your anxiety, that you try to overcome those uncomfortable emotions, those uncomfortable situations, because I believe there is a greater reason than just overcoming the negative feelings, just getting over those. Obviously, that is a huge benefit to confronting a challenge that provokes fear, anxiety, and other emotions like that. But I think there is something that is so much more valuable if we look a little bit deeper. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today. I also have a small announcement that I will be talking about at the end of the episode, so make sure you stay tuned for that. This has been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, so I'm super excited to share that with you. So stay tuned for that. Before we begin this episode, I do want to acknowledge the fact that I am talking about fear and anxiety that is not necessarily related to a mental illness. I'm talking about just everyday fear, everyday anxiety, and it might kind of cross over into some of the mental illness type emotions with phobias or something like that, or with social anxiety disorder. But for this episode, I'm really trying to emphasize why it is so important to overcome those fears that just happen when we think of trying to do something, when we're trying to work on a new goal, when we're trying to grow as a human being, grow as an individual. I'm talking about those kinds of fears, those kinds of moments that provoke anxiety. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Let's get started. Obviously, we all have triggers that provoke our fear, our anxiety, those emotions that I've been talking about. Some things that provoke those emotions within me is thinking about where this page could end up. I love what I'm doing, and because of that, I'm fearful of what I'm doing as well. I'm afraid that it won't go the way I want it to. I'm afraid that I'm going to say something that harms my listeners at times. Honestly, I try to be very careful with what I say because mental illness, when I do talk about that, it's such a taboo topic. I worry that I'm going to say something that comes off wrong. I'm worried about a number of things related to this page, this podcast. Now think about your fear. You may have the fear of failure. I talked about failure quite a bit in the last episode, Forgetting Perfection. That's a good one to check out if you haven't yet. Maybe you have a fear of being laughed at. That's certainly an uncomfortable thing to think about. Maybe you have a fear of not fitting in. That's another anxiety-provoking feeling. That's another anxiety-provoking situation. To help you overcome those feelings, to help you attack those situations that provoke anxiety, fear, worry, etc., I'm going to use a metaphor here. I'm going to use the metaphor of the storm. I like metaphors for a number of reasons. I think, first of all, it makes the picture more clear. It helps explain a concept in a more relatable way. And secondly, I think people will pick up more on metaphors. It will kind of hit home more than just hearing a lesson. So that is why I want to use this metaphor. Now let me explain what I'm talking about when I mean the storm. Obviously, you've probably been through many severe thunderstorms in your life. So just imagine what that feels like. Imagine what that looks like. It's dark. You have to go inside. It seems like it's chaotic outside, right? There's a chance that you can get harmed from the storm. You can get hurt if you play out in the rain, in the lightning, in the thunder, things like that. So you have to go inside where there is order, where there's not chaos. You have to go inside where there is no perceivable risk. That is where you find comfort. Now imagine the storm as your feelings of fear, your feelings of anxiety, your feelings of worry. If you want to overcome those feelings, if you want to get rid of that uncomfortable pain you feel, you cannot sit inside forever. Eventually, you have to go out into the storm, into the chaos, into the dark, into the place where you might get hurt. Here is why. You can't always find what you're looking for in places of comfort. You cannot expect to experience change in a place that does not challenge you. You have to be willing to go out into the storm, to face the darkness, face your fear, face the chaos, face your anxiety, because if you just stay inside, yeah, the storm might go away, but eventually it's going to come back and you're still going to have those feelings of discomfort. You're still going to feel anxious. You're still going to feel afraid. So that is why you have to go out there. You have to challenge it. You have to put yourself at a risk of discomfort so that you're not uncomfortable in the future. For liability reasons, I will say this is all metaphorical. I do not advise playing outside when it is storming out, when there is lightning in the area. That is not safe. But I hope you get my message. I'm going to talk about a couple of concepts that support why stepping out into the storm is the way to overcome these emotions of discomfort. The first reason is that you cannot reason your way through fear. When you have a fear, when you have anxiety, when you have worry, a lot of the times it's irrational, right? It's very emotional. The pain you feel, the discomfort you feel, those negative feelings that you're experiencing outweigh your ability to just work through it like a math problem. That doesn't always work. If you look at somebody who has a phobia, a crippling fear, right? Something that's just hard for them to even imagine. Maybe the person has a fear of snakes, let's just say, for example. The way that they have to oftentimes overcome that fear is to be exposed to it. So they might at first just try to imagine a snake. Once they get comfortable enough, then they have to do something more challenging. Maybe they have to look at a picture of a snake, and then maybe the next thing they have to do is look at a snake that's in a container and hidden behind glass, right? They have to face the fear at some point. That is how they get over it, by pushing themselves a little bit each and every time so that they realize, okay, I can handle this small situation. Maybe I can handle the next thing. And once they get comfortable with that, they go on to the tougher challenge and they keep moving forward until they no longer feel the discomfort. The second concept I want to talk about is that people who seem fearless are probably not fearless, right? Some people just go buck wild, just go crazy. They seem invincible, right? They're just able to do anything without really thinking about it. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. That's usually not true, right? People are afraid to do things. But those people who seem fearless, I think what it really comes down to is that even in spite of fear, they continue to act, right? They feel those emotions too. They feel the discomfort and they still move forward. And you can do that too. Okay, these concepts are leading me to my big point. If you take away one piece of information from this episode, please let it be what I am about to talk about, because I think this is one of the most important concepts I have talked about in any of my podcasts so far. Obviously, it is great that when you overcome a situation, you get rid of the feelings of fear, of anxiety, of worry. But there is something so much deeper than that, so much more valuable. When you overcome one specific moment in time, that has the potential to carry out to the rest of your life. It can generalize. So when I overcome that one challenge, I show myself something. I show myself that, holy crap, I am so much stronger than I have ever thought of. There is so much more to me than I have ever realized. I overcame this one tough challenge. What is stopping me from overcoming the next one? What is stopping me from overcoming a challenge in a completely different area of my life? I've stepped out into the storm. I've put myself out there into the danger, and I handled it. I overcame it. When you realize this, it builds a whole new sense of self, a whole new sense of confidence that can translate to any other area in your life. That is why it is so important to step out into the storm, to put yourself out there, to take the risk. let's wrap this up with a good old Jordan Peterson quote. I heard this in one of his lectures, so I don't think it's really a popular quote, but I think it definitely should be. He said, if you face what you fear, you get what you need. If you face what you fear and overcome it, you build a whole new sense of self, a whole new sense of confidence that can carry on for the rest of your life, that can carry on to so many other problems, so many other challenges, so many other obstacles. But now, let's get to the big announcement I was talking about. Really not that big of an announcement, but I've been talking about wanting to do this for a long time. Since I started the podcast, I am going to be selling some stuff online. On Ion Motive, I'm going to be setting up a little shop. Right now, I'm thinking about just selling apparel, just some t-shirts, and I'm looking to find some companies or some charities, some organizations that I can support. So a percentage of all sales will go to these organizations that I'm thinking benefit mental health, that benefit mental well-being. I'm going to make sure I look into these companies in depth so I know that the money is going to a good cause. I'm super excited about this. Unfortunately, I cannot give any time frame for when this is going to happen. I've been working on it quite a bit, but because I have never done this, I don't know what obstacles I'm going to face. I don't know what it's necessarily going to require. We're going to figure that out as we go. And I'm sure there's going to be some hiccups along the way. So I'm not going to promise anything, but in the future, I will be selling some apparel, and I am super excited about that. And I'm glad I am finally sharing it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not already, please like, share, subscribe, review, yada, 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 whatever it is. Please share this with a friend if you think it is helpful. That's all I got. Yeah, nothing more to say. So I'll see you next time. Remember the Ion Motive. Live a charged life.